Well, hello and welcome to this week's episode. It is called The Antidote for Overgiving. Now, how many of you find yourself overgiving in life? I know many because you've all written me emails telling me that you need some help to figure out how to stop. So in this episode, I'm going to teach you why you're actually doing it. Together, we're going to reveal and uncover why you are overgiving. What is that about for you? It's very easy to look at overgiving as like, oh, I'm just a super nice person. But honestly, it's more than that. It isn't necessarily about being a super nice person. So I'm going to give you some tools and strategies to figure out how to give appropriately, which will be much easier once you understand what is driving the overgiving to begin with. So I'm going to start with talking about the codependency connection, because there always is a codependency connection when we're talking about overgiving. So, why do codependents overgive? Well, this is a subtle form, or not so subtle form, of controlling things, of having control or taking control. So if I offer to drive you, then I at least know that you're going to the job interview, let's say. If I offer to pay for school, then at least I know you're going to school, supposedly. But it's a misguided attempt most of the time. So for you, if you're watching this and you feel like you overgive, I'm going to put a few questions in our little downloadable guide that you can get, which will be right here, whether you're listening to this on the podcast or whether you are watching it as a video. That there's going to be this little cheat sheet where you can answer some questions so that you can get clarity about your own codependent connection. Do you feel like when something is happening to someone else, does it feel like it's happening to you? Are you overly invested in other people's, their choices, their bad choices, their outcomes? Are you saving people from themselves a lot? Do you find yourself that you're drawn to people who need saving or who have a broken wing that you feel like you can help them and you really want to? If any of this is resonating and you are nodding your head, then you probably are a codependent of some level. And I have to say, with women, we are raised to be codependents to a degree. So it's something that to not be a codependent really requires us to work hard to not be codependent, So it's natural. Like we love people. This is how we love. And yet, so much of the time, if you're doing it in a codependent way, you're doing it at the expense of yourself. So the first part is you'll answer. There's a few more questions that I'll give you in the PDF so you can get clarity on your own level of codependency. And then let's move into the truth about overgiving. So I have a few questions so that you'll be able to answer and in your own mind gain clarity about, do you overgive? So do you do things for other people that they can and should be doing for themselves? Do you do things for other people that they don't ask you to do? You just do them on your own, spontaneously, but nobody asked you to do it. Yes? No? Do you do more than you're asked? So if you're invited, the holidays are here, if you're invited to a holiday party and they say, can you bring one thing? Do you bring four? So if you nodded your head to any of these, this is an indication that you're giving from a dysfunctional place. Because there's an overcompensation that's happening when we overgive in that way, which is sort of interesting to look at. So let's look at why we do it. So if we bring in the 3 cues at this point, you can say, when I'm acting this way, overgiving, who does this remind me of? When I'm acting this way, overgiving, where have I felt like this before? When someone doesn't ask me to do something, but I do it spontaneously, why is that dynamic familiar to me? And again, I'll include the questions in the downloadable PDF, so don't worry, you don't have to write them down, but I want you to think about, because it's either one of two things. Either it's learned behavior that you saw, maybe one of your parents was an extreme overgiver for the same dysfunctional reasons. We don't want to be rejected. We want people to like us. Or if you grew up in a family system that was dysfunctional and that you had to provide value by doing something. It was like you had to be utilitarian to be loved. So as long as you were meeting the needs of the other people in the system, and most of the time it's dysfunctional parents who are either have addiction issues, alcohol issues, or it's just a chaotic system where you know that to stay safe, you need to just be doing things. Like the adults are not doing what they should actually be doing, and so children just start taking over those roles, and this creates that sense of the need, the drive to overgive. So once you answer those questions for yourself, that'll be on the downloadable sheet, you'll get a clearer idea of why you're doing it, because in this overgiving syndrome, it really leads us into the martyr syndrome. And we like to think of ourselves as doing it because we're so generous. We're just kind like that. We're just Mother Earth, right? We're just nice. Well, but when you look at it from the point of view of that you're potentially overgiving, not from a place of niceness, but from a place of need. Like you have a need for others to be like, oh my God, you're so amazing. That was so wonderful. Thank you so much. You didn't have to, but I'm so glad you did. And what ends up happening in that dynamic is if you do it for long enough, you end up feeling angry. You end up feeling bitter. Because even when someone is grateful, because you're giving from a dysfunctional place, they can never be grateful enough. Right? Because they're not the one who has to fill that hole that you're trying to fill. That can only come from you. So it's like overgiving. We're overgiving, trying to fill the hole that only self-love can fill. So it's like we're looking in the wrong place. So if you're nodding your head, don't worry. I'm going to give you ideas of how to stop doing this and why you should stop. And I think you probably already are understanding why you should stop. It gets old. And maybe when you're young, you can do it it seems like you can do it forever, but I promise you, when you're not 25 anymore, you really do end up with limited energy to go outside, because it takes more energy to stay healthy, and you've got family and kids and grandkids and other people that need something from you. So that's the why, is that it's unhealthy. It's also not authentic, right? So much of the work that I do on my, in the podcast and on this, my terricole.com, it's all about empowerment. It's all about authenticity, truth. So when we're giving to get, even though you don't like to think of yourself that way, but it really is true. When I had to face this in my early 20s or mid 20s when I was in therapy, it was so painful for me to face that I was overgiving and overdoing out of a selfish, dysfunctional need. It really was hard for me to accept that. I was like, no, but I also am doing it because I want to, or whatever. My therapist was like, yeah, you are. But let's look at the root of what you're doing. You're doing it so that you get the adoration that you want. You're doing it so that no one can say anything bad about you. You're doing it because you want accolades and you want people to think that you're amazing. And I was like, well, is that so wrong? Yes, that's true, but is that wrong? And she was like, listen, the degree that you're doing it is unhealthy. We all want people to think we're amazing. That's fine. She's like, but we have to work on your relationship with yourself. You need to think you're amazing simply because you're here. Simply because you're alive. You are amazing. And so I want you to be getting more self-approval, right? You got to get that from inside. It's an inside job. And it's nice. Of course, we want to have harmonious and loving relationships with other people in our life. Of course, sure. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about overgiving. And it really is a syndrome that can go on because we get positive feedback for it. So it's hard to stop it because that feels good, the positive feedback. But the truth is, if you do it for a long time, it actually ends up being a negative experience. So let's talk about how you can figure out the strategy of how to find the real balance, right? Not fake balance. Because this is the same as false humility. When someone says, oh my gosh, you did an amazing job. And the person says, no, it was terrible. It wasn't that good. It was no big deal. Like, that's just fake to me. That's just, and if you really feel that way, then that's bad self-esteem. If you can't even recognize when you do a good job at something, that there's something wrong with that. So this is sort of the same, where overgiving, they say, thank you, thank you, thank you. They can't be thankful enough when they ask you to bring one thing and you bring 5, right? And you're like, no, it's nothing. It's no big deal. But you want to keep it going that way. What I'm saying, and this is what I'm going to challenge you to do, because we still have a couple of weeks left in this holiday season. You're still going to be going to holiday parties starting right about now is when most of them start kicking off. And I'm going to challenge you to really take an inventory. So that'll be the first thing that you're going to do, is take a little inventory of what is happening holiday-wise. What do you normally do? How much and where and with whom do you overgive? So you're going to do a little list, a little inventory of that. And then you're going to get committed to creating more balance. I really want you to create more balance in your life. If someone asks you to do one thing, I want you to do one thing. If that one thing is too much, I want you to say no. If you're exchanging gifts with your adult grown siblings, every person with every person, and you're going broke at holiday time, whether it's for Hanukkah or Christmas or Kwanzaa or whatever it is, maybe come up with something new. Maybe decide that you'll only give gifts to the kids, or that you'll do, take a name out of the hat, right? Or do a Secret Santa where there's a money limit on what it is that you can do, how much you can spend. Because it is so stressful to be going broke over the holidays every year out of expectation. And talk about creating resentment. It creates so much resentment. So you're going to get creative, because only you know what you're doing in your life, as to where you can trim the over-giving fat and do something different. And then the second thing you're going to do is you're going to add more self-care, starting right now. I want you to commit to doing something every single day through New Year's that is specifically and only about you. Self-care, something that makes you feel good. It could be getting a manicure. It could be giving yourself 30 minutes to read a magazine or take a power nap, take a tub. It could be saying no to a bunch of obligatory crap that you really don't want to do. To change what happens, you need to change your mind. You need to give yourself permission to pivot. And if you guys didn't hear, I have a beautiful mini course that is called, it's basically about having healthy holidays. And I'm teaching you all of these boundary strategies to bring the happy back. It's called the Healthy Holiday Thrive Guide. So I'll give you all the information right here for that as well. Because honestly, everything you need to know is in that Healthy Holiday Thrive Guide, about how to basically flip the script on the holiday season for you, if it has been a stressful time, or if it normally is a stressful time for you. Maybe this year you actually could bring the happy back. How would that be? And for some of you, it would be bringing the happy for the first time, which I feel like could be great, right? We want to do that. So I'd love to hear from you. If you like this, please share it on your social media platforms. Those of you who know, we are already in full swing for Real Love Revolution season. So please join me for Wednesday Wisdoms. We're doing an absolutely gorgeous, we're doing a meditation challenge, because so many of you wanted me to bring it back. So in January, you guys, I think you can join as of right now, the meditation challenge. And if not, keep your eyes open. It'll be soon. Which is going to be happening in January. I'm so excited. And then Real Love Revolution, the course starts February 6th, I believe it is, in 2019. So for those of you who've been waiting patiently on the waiting list, don't worry, it's coming. And I will see you guys in the free Facebook group if you're in there. And I'll also see you on the blog. Please, I want you to drop me comments here and tell me, what is it that you did to actually do something for yourself? What are your plans from now until the end of, till we get through New Year's? What are your self-care actions going to be? Let's all share, because we could get ideas from each other as well. I want to say thank you so much for watching, sharing, and listening. And as always, take care of you.